May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. There was an obituary in the Times this week of a woman called Barbara Smoker. It came to mind a few days later, and the only detail I could remember was the phrase, a small spherical woman, and her unusual name, Barbara Smoker. Apparently it means that one of her ancestors may have made smocks, possibly for small spherical women, I don't know. But what caught my eye and made me look the obituary up again was what happened to her at the age of 26. She was standing by the philosophy shelves in Holborn Public Library when she experienced a reverse Damascus Road moment. It was midday on November the 5th, 1949, when the 26-year-old Barbara Smoker renounced her Catholic faith. I knew it was all poppycock, she said. She went on to become president of the National Secular Society, as well as being a leading light of the British Humanist Association and the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament and the Voluntary Euthanasia Society. She opposed marriage and any form of government. She was a vegetarian and preached against Donald Soper at Hyde Park Corner. Her main leisure interests, were collecting skeletons, human skeletons, promoting the phonetic alphabet, and building up enormous gambling debts that were beyond her means to repay. I'm not unconditionally recommending her as a role model for you. Admittedly, it takes courage and character to uphold for 3/4 of a century beliefs that would bring her so frequently into conflict with the establishment. What I'd have found difficult in her is her apparent certainty, the lack of any kind of doubt. On highly debated matters of great complexity and nuance, she was always ready with a point of view. The hero of today's gospel is generally known as Doubting Thomas. He wanted evidence of Christ's resurrection. I'm afraid I'd probably have wanted it too. At the end of St. Matthew's Gospel, we're told even some people who'd witnessed the whole of Christ's ministry, death and resurrection with their own eyes still had doubts. Probably most of us were taught the Christian faith as gospel truth, and we probably took a fair bit of time to think about various bits of it, work out how to interpret them so we could become comfortable with what we've been taught, and then we made it our own. And that can be, generally is, a lifetime thing. You might be surprised to hear that when you do biblical studies at university, you're taught to treat the texts with skepticism. Be suspicious of supernatural and miraculous claims. Treat the holy books as texts to be questioned and argued about in the same way as students of any other subject. And, of course, like you, we were taught science and cosmology, Darwin and Einstein, in the same classes as everyone else. We learned not to believe one thing in church and another out in the world. Doubt, skepticism, questioning, it's what you do. And if you're a Barbara Smoker, you apparently end up rejecting it all. Many of us, on the other hand, manage to keep our faith in a kind of virtuous tension with our questioning. We realize that reason will only get you so far. So every so often we put the doubts to one side. We go down deep into ourselves to find God waiting patiently for us in the depths of our being. And we surrender to trust. My father used to tell the story of an office building that had been bombed in the war. A man was trapped on the 5th story. There was no way out except by jumping. A crowd had gathered below, and the police had organized large nets that he could jump into. His difficulty was that a big lump of detached masonry was blocking his view. He couldn't see down to the street. People down below were shouting at him to jump. They said he'd be safe, but he'd have to trust them. That's a bit like what we do with the Christian faith. Do we hang back or do we boldly launch forward? Can it be true? How much of it can we believe? Well, the psalmist says, "O taste and see. O taste and see how gracious the Lord is. Taste, say yes. Accept what's offered. Reach out your hand to it." Do that, and as soon as we let go of the anxiety about all these questions that vex us, and we'll probably never find answers, as soon as we begin to trust, we know we're loved, supported, looked for, given a future, assured that whatever the world throws at us, we will not be overcome. This is how we find the distinction between certainty, which with very few things in life is achievable, between certainty and truth, which is the firm basis of everything. I'm sure Barbara Smoker was a good woman. In her way, she'll have done a lot of useful things, helped a lot of people. Whether she did well to turn her back on the faith of her birth, well, perhaps she has a better idea now. The last thing in life she'd have wanted would be my prayers that God will accept her into his light and peace forever. My prayers are the last thing she'd have wanted. And, well, you might say it's the last thing she's got. May she rest in peace. Amen.